Hello, dear ones. Here we are at our third and final featured feature of the day. It is the last time we had money with Paulo Garbanzo. My name is Carmel. I am the directrix of the Richmond Fringe Festival, which you have found yourself swimming through today. This is not the last show, though. Oh, no. There's more. A variety spectacular is coming to you at 8 o'clock. There will be burlesque. There will be erotic fan fiction. There will be puppets. There will be singing. It will be glorious. And we hope to see you there. It is public and it is a fundraiser. So tell your friends if you want to see the weird stuff, come to Fringe. So if you don't know where you are right now, let me remind you. This is the Richmond Fringe Festival Digital. We have decided to not give up the ship. We have decided that we could transform into something new. And we're still learning a lot of lessons about that. We appreciate you being with us on that journey, learning and being flexible. Speaking of being flexible, the person who will be hosting this show is an internationally renowned jester and juggler and a bit of a nerd. I'm going to call him up at this exact moment. Mr. Paulo Garbanzo, the mayor of Awesome Town. Here he is.
Well, hello.
This is a dear friend of mine. He has a lot to say about the internet that the internet needs to know.
Yes.
But mostly today, we're going to step back in time and talk about things that are relevant to right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, darlings, get your notepads ready, get your popcorn, and be ready to laugh and learn. Paulo Garbanzo, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I would like to thank the Richmond Fringe Festival for actually continuing on through adversity. And I'd love to thank Carmel for being here and being able to do this. So, oh yes, here we go. My first slideshow of the day. Well, my friends, my name is Paulo Garbanzo, and here's the thing. We have a lot of things going on today, and what I would like to do is welcome you all to the first and possibly last episode of what I like to call the last time we had money. Now, you might be wondering what this has to do with anything or everything. And here's the thing. I'm currently an international tour guide. And, well, of course, currently I am only touring a few square meters because, you know, I do a lot of European tours, so we use the metric system of my own abode. But the thing is that when I travel and I take people to places that are medieval. Oh, this beautiful little medieval town, this beautiful Renaissance city. You know, a lot of people say, oh, why is this town in particular have just all these medieval buildings? Well, or why does this one have Renaissance building? Or why is Florence, the heart of the Renaissance, has all these epic Renaissance buildings, while meanwhile, 50 miles down the road, Pisa is stuck in the Middle Ages with some great buildings, I might add. You know, there's that Leaning Tower thing that people keep talking about. But why did they stop? And Florence continued on into the future with the Renaissance. Well, basically it comes down to this. When was the last time that city had any money? And, well, Pisa, yeah, 12th century. Bam, they built all that cool stuff, but what they didn't do was build a sufficient army that was big enough to defeat Florence when Florence came knocking, and then they took over. Florence, however, they continued to move forward and built things into the future. So that's what we talk about. When I bring people to a town and we say, oh, this is a beautiful medieval town, why did it stop here? Because that's the last time they had money. Why is this city in the Baroque period? Oh, because that was the last time they had money. And 20 minutes later into the Rococo period, that's when they had money. So that's where this all comes from. So we're going to talk about a couple of cities that I actually go to on some of our tours, or at least we used to. And these cities were doing really great, but they pretty much stopped their course of forward progress due to some plague issues. A kind of a timely, fashionable thing to talk about right now. And I just want to say right now, I am so glad we have science, because here's the thing. Some of the cities that we're going to talk about suffered really, really humongous losses, giant numbers that I'll be giving you later in this episode. And they're staggering numbers. We're doing really great. Just washing your damn hands, okay, is a huge uptick in survivability. So let's just give a big hand for science. All right, people, science. So,
Yay, science!
yes, the in-studio audience goes wild. Both of them.
Don't forget, Professor Garbanzo, you can take questions.
Oh, that's right. I will be taking questions during the show. It's only 30 minutes, so I will try to get some questions if I can get to them. Meanwhile, I have a lot of things to rant about, namely history and science and math. Oh yeah, we're going to get to math. But the first city I want to talk about, San Gimignano. Now, that is a city in Tuscany. It is a gorgeous city and actually is the height of medieval architecture. It used to have 74 towers in this little tiny city. There's only about 14 left of them because they've fallen down over the course of time. Now, this particular city was huge during the medieval era and during, what is that thing? The Crusades. That's right. Oh, this is our other city. Yes. And the Crusades brought a lot of traffic and a lot of money, and San Gimignano became kind of rich on the trade of saffron, which I kind of had to figure out. I had to ask some questions when I got there because I said, there's 4 quarters to the city, and one color is green, a very nice, vibrant green, that very Tuscan. And there's a blue one, very solid blue, very Tuscany. And there's a red, a very good red color. And then there's this not quite yellow color. And I was like, why isn't that yellow? You got, some good colors for your quarters, but what, that's off yellow? And the guy was like, that's saffron. That is saffron colored. And I got a very stern talking to by a little Italian lady. Whew. So that town, that whole quarter was literally cornered the saffron market from all the way from Jerusalem up into Europe. But here's the thing, with long distance trade also comes the plague. So in the 1300s, they were extremely rich. They built this city, and there's such a little tiny town, 72 towers. Everybody's showing their wealth by building a tower bigger than their neighbors. And they're like, oh no, I have 6 stories. And they're like, I have 7 stories. I have 8 stories. And all that jazz. 1348, boom, the plague hammer dropped on them. And this city went from 13,000 people and suffered a 2/3 casualty rate. Okay, that is 2/3 of the city were killed by the plague. So yeah, think of those staggering numbers. The majority of people. Now here's the thing, I'm a little bit mathy, and I went, okay, 13,000 people, divide by 3. That's not an actual number. This is irrational because that leaves, from 13,000, that leaves 4,333.33 repeating people left. I really want to know about that 0.333333 person. I mean, was it like a baby and they just never grew up because it's completely irrational and just, But if they just said there's 13,002, you could divide it that easily and that would be 4,334. And you'd just be like, oh, okay, fine. Anyway, don't get me started about the math. But yes, here we go from a city 2/3 wiped out from plague. And now you only have 4,000 and some change people living in the city. Well, here we are in the 1350s, and it's not a really good time to be a once rich city, not that powerful anymore, because here comes Florence to drop some Florentine elbows on everybody. And this is a great. Florence comes in, they're like, yo, we're taking over. And they're like, okay, I guess, maybe that's fine. And they didn't really have a choice. Florence took their old Benedictine monk place and turned it into a fort on top of the hill to watch over the rest of the city and to drop jump off the wall and drop a hammer on them if they needed to. And San Gimignano hated them so much that as soon as the Florentines left, which by the way was not for a long time, they immediately tore down that building. It doesn't exist. There's like one part of a wall left. The rest of the city, great shape, beautifully restored and beautifully. That fortress, kaboom, just F them. So Oh, we have a question? Or
Video.
oh yes, yes. So I have a quick video to show you of San Gimignano, and this is a model of the medieval city as it stood in the 1300s, and it is a gorgeous model, by the way, and it's gigantic. It's probably about 20 some odd feet by 20 some odd feet wide, and it's extremely detailed, and it's just gorgeous. And the people spent, oh my gosh, like 10 years working on it, and it's fantastic. You can see there's a hotel that we stay at, which is a 13th century building, and there it is right there. Sorry. Yeah, you can see a bunch of the towers there. This is a fantastic little town, and yeah, sadly, it has never really recovered because the last time they had money was 1348. And sure, the town grew up a little bit more. There's actually now probably close to 9,000 people who live there, so they still haven't even reached the height of what they used to have. And but now they've reached the tourism level of Italy, which is most people have, and in Italy have, and they've restored a lot of the buildings, and it's pretty gorgeous. So yeah, that's San Gimignano. It's a mere hour drive south of Florence, and you have to understand a 1 hour drive is about 17 hours of walking, and if we have an army, it probably takes a few days to get over there. So during this whole era where these city-states are occupying each other, it's bad news if you don't have a good wall. So, yeah. So, my friends, our next, do we have any questions? No, have we got any questions from the audience about San Gimignano? They have some lovely wild boar, by the way. The whole area of Tuscany has these wild boars called the cintura, which means the belts, and they're white and they're brown with a white belt around their bellies, but it's amazing. And yeah, so if you get the chance, go there, get the wild boar for sure.
No questions, Professor Garbanzo, just many people who are in love with science.
Excellent. Oh, science, yes, we love the science. Well,
How do you spell the town name?
Oh, San Gimignano. It is S-A-N, right? San, which means saint, and then Gimignano. So that is J-I-M-I, Gimigna. Now the nya is G-N-A-N. Gimignano. Yeah, A-N-O. Right. For those at home, that was S-A-N-G-I-M-I-G-N-A-N-O. Right. Gimignano. The G and the N makes an N with a tilde sound on top of it, just for Italian, if you're wanting to learn Italian. That's why the word signore is spelled with a G, but sounds just like signore in Espanol. There you go. Now you know. Now you know. Well, way on the other side of Europe is currently the Czech Republic. It used to be Bohemia, and you have Prague, you have Český Krumlov, you have Brno, and then you have this amazing town called Kutna Hura. Now, this town was doing fantastically well, and as a matter of fact, they were more than twice the size of San Gimignano. These small Italian cities, way back in the back. But here in Bohemia now, up in the mountains. Now, some of you are wondering, well, what does that mean, Bohemia? Bohemia was just a little certain state, a city-state of its own that kind of had its own power for quite some time. They were actually pretty self-sufficient, but it has a mix of German as well as the Czechish language, which is a Slavic language. And the nice thing about it is if you look at a lot of the place names, almost all of them invariably have two different names, and one is the German, one's the Czech. So you have Kutna Hura, which means Hood Mountain, which also used to be called Gutenberg, which also means Hood Mountain. So they're all pretty good and similar things. Like, I won't even talk about Bodovice, which is called Budweiser in German, which is actually where Budweiser comes from. But we're not talking about that town right now. We'll talk about that town later. Right now, we're talking about Kutna Hura. Now, this city, in about that same time period, in the late 1200s, 1300s, they found silver. Now, here's the thing. This is a huge deal. It's not quite as good as gold, but it's darn close. So suddenly they're like, whoa, all these guys are coming over and they're like, what the silver everywhere. They start digging. Almost 2/3, actually more than 2/3 of all the silver produced in the entire area, beyond Bohemia, beyond all that land over there, was coming from that one spot, which of course means a bunch of people are coming there to find work, and a bunch of people are coming there to make it rich, and a bunch of people who may or may not be in the best of health, and they're coming from all over sorts of places. And once you get the city up to about 33,000 people, poor conditions and all that sort of stuff, nobody washing their hands, and suddenly plague breaks out. And it went from 30-ish thousand to half that. So the entire population of San Gimignano, imagine that, off. You're gone. Now, here's the thing. The interesting thing about Kutna Hura, aside from being vastly rich and bringing a lot of their money over to the capital in Prague, they started this thing. They had so many dead that they just didn't know what to do with them. And their entire cemetery full. And they're like, oh my gosh, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? So they took all the people that they had interned, dug them up, and put them in an ossuary. Now that is different from a crypt, which is, well, let's go through the process. You can put people in a crypt. You put them there for a while until all that's left is bones. Then once it's bones, you take those bones, you gather them up, you take them down to the ossuary. Now, that is where the bones will stay forever. Now, that is like the in Paris, where they have the all the catacombs there, literally millions of bodies just shoved in there. So what they did was they originally had interred these people in the ground. They pulled all their bones up, and they're still finding bones today, by the way. I was there 2 years ago, and they were actually doing another dig, and they were like, oh, we found these other bones. We didn't know there was going to be a whole bunch of bones over here, but there they were. So they're slowly digging those up. Well, they were putting them in this ossuary, and the guy, this carpenter they had kind of hired to kind of do some of this work to put them in a good spot, I'm not going to say he went cray-cray, but I'm not going to say he lost his shit, but I'm just going to say that he stacked up some bones, probably large stacks of bones, and eventually he was like, if I see one more leg bone, I'm going to go crazy. And so what he did was he started to put them in decorative shapes, and he just kind of, well, there's one, the stack. I don't know if you can find the stack of bones there. There was, there, yeah. So we have this gigantic stack of bones. I mean, literally, that is it's got to be 15 feet by 15 feet. I mean, there's the skull there for size. You can see just how big that pile of bones, and that is a solid stack of bones. It's solid. It is just leg bone after leg bone after leg bone after leg bone. And it's pretty tall. It's pretty tall. So he set those up, and then eventually just started making chandeliers out of hip bones. And this picture right here, this is actually the crest of the royal family who used to live in Czech Republic, another city we'll talk about in some other time. And you can see, look, back in the lower right-hand corner of the image is a skull, and that is a bird picking the eye out of the skull. That is on the crest of the family, the Rosenbergs from Czech Republic. that is actually part of their family crest. Their history, their family stopped the Mongol invasion, or at least they were part of it. And something about a whole giant battlefield full of heads and people's and crows coming out and picking their eyes out. And that is such a really great like kind of concept that we should be known for, that we're going to put it on our family crest. And so this guy literally took skull and then took some bones that he like hands. Those are actually hands, and he made a little birdie out of the skull, right? And then it's like I was like that was actually pretty darn good. I mean, that is some art right there. That is serious. So that's the royal crest. You can see the crown over top of it, and then you see like Christmas. There's just skulls and skulls. There's like popcorn strung across the Christmas tree. He just kind of was like, what can we do now with these hip bones? Well, I know I can make a chandelier. I can make I can make all sorts of stuff. And yeah, it's like a pretty crazy place. Let's see. Ooh, there's some other pictures. We have the chalice, I think, maybe. Oh yeah, there it is. That's like you can see the skulls. It's like 3 feet tall. It's amazing. And then the whole skull and crossbone things. Like I don't think he was a pirate. I mean, the Czech Bohemia area is completely landlocked, which is interesting because in Czech, to say hello, it is ahoy. And they literally don't have boats. There's no boats in the whole country. Like, I mean, they got like canoes and stuff, but really, really am troubled by this fact. I don't know how we got ahoy and ahoy with it's, yeah. So if anyone has that answer, please, by all means, tell me. Ooh, here's a lovely chandelier. I would love to be like the realtor trying to sell this place. We're like, oh, come on over here. We have this lovely, this is like 14 skull chandelier. Like, this is great. Right over here. Oh, and includes 3 hip bones. Just so you know. I think 2 of those hip bones are some famous people. Yeah. Oh, and that's the skull candelabra over there on the I think left and right there in the back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Human skulls. They're just all over it. So yeah. So Kutna Hura, silver mine central for the Bohemian Empire. It went from a city of 32,000. They have amazing churches and things like that. But of course, everybody just loves the ossuary. They don't really even go to the church. I mean, they go to the church. They do go to the church, but it's nice. Actually has this really crazy roof, 3 points. It looks like a tent, but it's made of stone. Anyway, but everyone goes to the ossuary. And yeah, oh, there it is. There's the bird. Yeah, caw. Yeah, like that's good work there. That is some handy. You gotta really have like that's a hands-on kind of handcrafty work kind of thing that you're doing there. Handcraft, yeah. So let's see. If there's any questions, do put your notes in there, and we have so. Let's see. Wow, golly, what else? Well, they still manage to do pretty well as far as cities go. But they did put a dampener. Losing half their people did put a gigantic dampener in their ability to actually mine silver. Clearly, so they recovered-ish. Right now, they're 700 years later, 650 years later. They're now one of these UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So is San Gimignano, and they have their population is nowhere near. It's maybe 10,000 right now, so 15. And yeah, they have skulls upon skulls. And interestingly enough, hilarious that San Gimignano started off doing great, and then Crusades, saffron, boom, and then plague. Whereas Kutna Hura, miles away. They actually were doing good, had this plague, and then had thousands of dead return from the Crusades. By cart, I imagine. Someone else pulling them. I don't think they returned. That would have been really awkward, and I'm sure someone would have written that down because I haven't seen any evidence of that happening. So yeah. So it was what is it? How do they maintain the buildings? Well, that is kind of a huge thing. It is different per country. Now we could talk about UNESCO with World Heritage Sites. Now that is the United Nations has decided to make certain cities all over the world, not just Europe. They're all over the world. Heritage sites, like humans, please, let's get together. Not physically, at least not right now. And if aliens came down from the skies right now, what do we want to show them? That's kind of like, hey, we're humans. We're not so bad. We did pretty good. This is a cool thing, right? And I think that's where they're getting that from, is, because, just basically showing aliens what's going on. So there's actually a fund. The United Nations spends a lot of money. And if a city does need help in that regard, they can actually ask the United Nations for some help. Otherwise, they will take that. And usually most of these cities also have pretty good tourism and a lot of rules about you can't rebuild that building like that because that's not medieval and or Renaissance and or Baroque and or not actually from Europe. It's from some other country. So they usually do it with tourism money, or they'll actually ask the help of the United Nations because these buildings are not cheap. And oh man, yeah. So that's a whole nother topic about Český Krumlov. Was a whole other city. We don't have time for it this time, but we'll talk about it later. That whole city actually never suffered any damage during any war. World War I, World War II, all throughout history, they were doing great. And then they ended up behind the Iron Curtain, and the communists said, these really fancy buildings, no one should live here. That's bourgeois. And they built these giant, crappy Soviet bloc apartment buildings outside of the city. The entire city fell in the ruins. And then after the wall came down, everyone was like, that was really cool stuff. Maybe we should rebuild it. And then they did. And then they did. That, by the way, was 30 years. And then they did. So sorry to make that the short version. But but we'll talk about more of that city later. They have a really cool Baroque theater. Well, my friends, just a few minutes left for us today. I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to rant a little bit about some history. I just want to bring this all together with a point about that we're not doing so bad, everybody. We're not doing so bad. We know what it takes to survive, and let's do that. Wash your hands, wear a mask, all right? Wear some gloves if you're going to go outside. Don't go outside if you don't have to. Don't make me rant like an Italian mayor, because I totally will. You stay inside unless you really, really, really have to, all right? And maybe choose a designated person who goes outside and does all the chores, and then you make sure that you make them dinner because they are trying to work hard for the benefit of everyone, all right? Let's keep those numbers low. That's what I'm saying. And I'd like to thank you all again. Be safe and enjoy your evening.
Yay, Professor Garbanzo! Hey, don't go away.
Oh,
we have a Q&A at the end of every one of these,
right.
just for a moment,
I forgot, yeah.
just to chat. So the chat has been mostly just wrapped by you. They don't have a lot of questions, but if you do, now is your chance. You can drop it in the ask a question at the bottom, or you can put it in the chat. So there's lots of thank yous, which is lovely. So,
thank you, everyone.
Paolo Garbanzo.
Yes.
Why are you such a huge nerd?
Why am I such a huge nerd?
Tell us all about it.
Oh my gosh. It began long ago when I was born a nerd, and then just went on the nerd path. And that really stems from Dungeons and Dragons. I'll just say it. I'm a Dungeons and Dragons nerd. Yeah. See that castle? Yeah. Bam. That's a real castle. I know all about it because I'm a nerd.
Also,
yes.
Explain what that castle is.
Oh, this castle?
That castle.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Well, see, there's a castle where the original Tom Fool used to live. Very famous guy.
You mean that
phrase,
guy? Tomfoolery?
That's where they get that phrase.
You quit your tomfoolery?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Which, by the way, side topic, when someone says that to you, you really have to take that with a grain of salt, because here's the thing. Tom Fool's standard joke was getting other people killed. This is true. He would usually sit under a tree, which, by the way, is on the other side of this. It's just on the behind this castle. I'm not even kidding. It's right there. And he would, if you treated him well, he would safely guide you across the swampy area to your home. Well, not all the way to your home, just get you across the swamp. If you treated him badly, because anybody could, because he's a jester and has no rank in society. If ranks in society were 1 through 10, he is the letter J. So doesn't have rank, which means anybody, the lowest person in society could like kick him and be like, hey, how do I get home? And he'd be like, you want to go home? I'll show you how to get home. You go down there, go down the hill, turn right, see that thing, the sign says Swamp of Death? Just keep going. And then you just keep going and it'll be fine. And then you end up drowning in the quicksand. Why? Because you were a dick. So here's the thing. When someone says, stop your tomfoolery, they're actually saying, please stop killing people. But take it with a grain of salt. Well, my friends, that is Muncaster Castle. And that is up in the north of England or the very south of Scotland. It just depends on your opinion. And basically, they have a jester competition there every year. And several years ago, I won. I know. And yeah, so once you're a fool, it's like Miss America for jesters. So once you're a fool, you're always a fool. You just pass your crown on to the next person. But that is, yeah, my mother-in-law painted this lovely picture. It's fantastic. And yeah, and that's pretty much what it looks like. Oh yeah. Oh, and so my friends, this is actually, I wasn't kidding about that tree. So this is actually, when you win, you get a wooden chalice that is carved from the tree. Branches fall off of the very, very old tree. And so they take that wood and they carve things out of it. And if you win, you get the wooden chalice.
The chalice from the palace is the brew that is true.
It's true. And that tree, literally, I'm not even kidding. It's like, it would be right here. If the castle wasn't here, that's where the tree would be. So
this has been lovely. And you should know that when this passes and the plague lifts, and Professor Garbanzo is back on the road, he can take you to these places.
That's true.
He runs a company called Ren Adventures. That's renadventures.com, REN adventures.com. And he can take you on a tour of Italy or Sicily. He could take you next year. There's going to be a witchy tour to Sicily with Byron Ballard from Asheville. He could also take you on an immersive D&D adventure, which includes the buildings in the story.
Yes, we have plans once this plague lifts that we might even do a Greek heroes quest down in Sicily when it's all safe and everybody's, power washed everything down. Because the last time Sicily had money was 400 BC, because there's amazing Greek temples all over the island. So yeah, that's the last time they had money. Sorry, no offense.
The perfect sword and sandal adventure awaits you.
There'll be swords and sandals.
Have a lovely day. We are going to see you at 8 o'clock for the Variety Streamathon. The mayor of Awesometown, Paulo Garbanzo, is going to be running tech. I will be hosting it along with Joe Retire Lily. We have an amazing lineup, and it is free and public. But watch it here on Crowdcast, because you don't want to get zucked. And Facebook hates the female form, so you won't be able to see any of the burlesque. So just come here, tell your friends, wear your shirt garters and your fancy, fancy pants. I noticed that you did a high kick earlier. I know you just want people to see your pants. Right. It's just a fancy pants. Fancy pants.
Fancy pants.
So,
my fancy pants.
Darlings, it's been such a pleasure. We will see you at 8 o'clock. Good night. Long live Fringe. Long may she sparkle. Down with the plague.
And gone. that what you said?
This is a reminder. This is a reminder, dear ones, if you're still in here, that you need to go to a separate link to get to the Variety Spectacular. You can go back to our channel on Crowdcast and let yourself in. These will be all shut down, so you can get into the Variety Streamathon Spectacular via a different link. It is public, and we cannot wait to see you.
I'm kidding.